They say that people hate it when you update a classic Disney attraction, and that Disney is never going to get Marvel at their theme parks for as long as Universal has their hands on them. Well, there's two updates today, and It's a Small World is now getting a dose of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in Tokyo. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, konnichiwa, my friends. I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter, and here with me is my confidant, my major domo, Mr. Vash Sky. Vash, please give us a report on the situation from the Far East.
Hey, I do appreciate that. Thank you so much, Jonas, for that amazing intro, Jonas-san. Thank you so much. Well, it does appear that a little dose of Marvel is headed to Tokyo, and this is extremely fascinating because we've been keeping up with the story, Jonas. We've been talking about how Marvel hasn't necessarily been implemented in Tokyo Disneyland, and well, it does raise the question as to like why that is, because Marvel is, for conceivably one of the biggest brands that Disney has. You would think that the Oriental Land Company would be jumping at the chance to include this hot property into their parks. Well, interestingly enough, we also know that Universal Osaka is getting rid of their Spider-Man attraction in order to implement Pokemon. And conceivably, if they're doing that, does that open the license up? Well, apparently it might. If we look right here, let's go ahead and go to this view right here. You can see this advertisement for It's a Small World with Groot. And the translation on this tweet is, at Tokyo Disneyland's It's a Small World, It's a Small World with Groot, featuring characters from Marvel Studios, will be held for a limited period of about 6 months from winter 2025. So, are they necessarily testing out?
That's excellent Japanese, Vash. I'm really impressed, man.
I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. I have Twitter to thank for this, so thanks, Elon. Do appreciate it. This is quite fascinating because it would appear that they're at least testing the waters, Oriental Land Company is, on the popularity of these Marvel characters by including them this way. Now, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Marvel characters being implemented in It's a Small World. I think that's kind of tragic because this original Mary Blair inspired attraction right here with that amazing Sherman Brothers song is more about, a prayer for peace, as Richard Sherman would say. So what does Marvel have to do with that? I'm not sure, but it's interesting for an overlay. What say you, Jonas? What do you think about all this?
I was iffy about adding in Disney characters into It's a Small World at Disneyland. And this was before I was tracking theme parks in the way that we do now. And I know that they did add, at least I've seen a picture of Woody on It's a Small World. Is that out at Disneyland?
Oh yes. Woody, Alice in Wonderland, Pinocchio. What's interesting is they've kind of incorporated the characters from Pixar and Disney into the various scenes or countries that would support that. So like Pinocchio, for example, is in Italy, and done in the art style that befits that section. So it was implemented pretty well.
Pinocchio is in Italy? Are you sure he's not in Germany?
Oh, I guess that would make a little bit more sense. Wait a minute, but I always see the. Oh, okay. Well,
you might be right. I'm thinking of Snow White.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a pretty good point there as well. I know, I believe Alice is in the UK, for example. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, we're gonna end up cutting this out. Walt Disney said his version of Pinocchio in Germany, but I believe that oh man, this is fascinating. We're gonna stop here for just a moment to point this out. Pinocchio, the original, is by Carlo Collodi, who is an Italian author, but Disney has German trappings all around in Pinocchio. So that's a good question. Sorry, that's a bit of a hilarious footnote here. Maybe I'll stick that on the end of the video. And you guys can enjoy this for after. Oh, fascinating. All right, but the thing I wanted to point out is they never touched "It's a Small World" on the Walt Disney World version of this, and and adding in a couple of child like a toy-like version of Disney characters, that's not a problem. But adding in the MCU, not just Marvel, but the MCU into It's a Small World after all, it's a very dated ride and has a older style to it, and these are all definitely characters that would classify. There's a few in here that would definitely be Avengers. I think Miss Marvel was probably before that MCA deal with Universal Studios, but Black Panther and Ant-Man and the Hulk. Those are all characters that I'm fairly certain I've seen all of them, especially the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk over there at Universal. So Spider-Man exiting Osaka Universal probably freed them up by the terms of the agreement there with MCA. Them exiting and not having a ride and not having a land with a certain amount of capital expenditure every single year. That is probably what freed them up to be at the parks. I don't know. Go ahead, Vash.
Well, no, I was just going to say that I think you're correct. We saw this play out actually in Hollywood. Universal Studios Hollywood, that is, in California, did have the rights to Marvel exclusively, and they actually let them go before Disney actually purchased Marvel, and then it became, a little bit of like, ooh, there's a competitive advantage to actually holding these to these Marvel rights. But we see that play out in Florida. It's why Florida, Walt Disney World can't. They can't do pretty much anything in terms of Marvel unless it's like the Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, in which that specific set of characters isn't necessarily listed in that, including in that contract right there. So it's a really kind of a touchy thing of rights ownerships, and we've seen Hong Kong do a lot of stuff with Marvel. We're seeing Shanghai now doing some stuff with Marvel. So to have Tokyo on board, I think it's a pretty fascinating development.
Right, and there is obviously hints at an evening spectacular that will also incorporate characters here. Now, as far as It's a Small World goes, I feel like there is very little that should be done to this ride. If you're going to encapsulate something in a museum, also I'm not having seen the Tokyo version, and maybe the Tokyo version is shiny and pretty and works exactly how it's supposed to. As most American Disney parks, they don't necessarily put the love that they should into these rides. If this is the way to get Imagineering to maintain the entire ride, maybe there's something to be said there. But there's so many things that just don't quite match the aesthetic here. There's several aliens, some of them being very happy to murder people, like Drax has to be convinced not to cut off people's heads. Rocket Raccoon is a thief and a murderer. I don't know. I feel like it's almost like seeing Captain Kirk on It's a Small World. It's just so strange. Hulk himself.
Yes.
That's I'm trying to think of the show scene that would incorporate not just Hulk but also Smart Hulk into It's a Small World. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm having trouble picturing it. It could be fun. I just don't know that I would replace It's a Small World with it.
I do agree. I mean, this was the inception of this attraction, which is such a fascinating history that we could do an entire video on for sure. But the intent of this attraction is to be a unifying, a unifying message to bring the world together, right? That no matter our differences, we are under one, golden sun and one moon. So
That's a great
the
idea. You know what? Actually, they ought to do GI Joe, because that's all the soldiers of the world, and they could be united and kind of like everybody knows that everybody's got weapons, and so they don't fight each other. That's kind of what you would do with all these different superheroes of the world, right? Nobody's going to fight if everybody knows that you got superheroes, right?
that is one logic, I suppose, that you could
I've
apply to
just
this
poking a little
situation.
fun at the idea here. I mean,
Right.
Thor is an alien who likes to hang out in Norway, so there's that. Gamora,
Mhm.
what country do you stick Gamora in? That's my question.
That's a that's a good point. Yeah, where do you stick Gamora? Where do you stick half these characters? To be quite honest, they can't all reside in America if it is represented in Tokyo's small world, which I don't know if it is. Captain Marvel. I mean, where does she fly around in? There's a lot of open questions for sure. We're going to have to see the execution of this idea, but like I said, it's a temporary overlay. It's lasting for about 6 months, it looks like. And again, I think this is just to kind of test the waters and see where the enthusiasm lies for Marvel itself. OLC, Oriental Land Company, has been they're very conservative when it comes to investment in Tokyo. They're very much like, okay, it has to be a bona fide hit. It has to be something that people want. It has to be a hit right out of the gate before we actually invest in it. And I think this is one of the ways they're testing the waters, let's say.
But of course, we want to throw this to the audience. What do you think of It's a Small World with Groot? That is the new name of the attraction, right, Vash?
Yes, Small World with Groot.
Wow, that's better than under new management. So that being said, we do want to throw that to the audience. What do you think of this situation? Would you be interested in riding this ride? Do you think it's a good replacement for It's a Small World? Or if you're one of these people who fantasize about going to that time capsule of the Disney that used to exist and seeing it over there in Tokyo as preserved by the Oriental Land Company, would you rather they just keep It's a Small World preserved as is in kinetic amber to be shown to us Americans if we can ever make our way over there? Leave your comments below. Like this video if you like this video, and of course consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.